This is Tripoli 41, Lecture 4. For this lecture, we'll introduce three important carrier actions happening inside our semiconductors. These carrier actions, namely, are drift, diffusion, and carrier RG or recombination generation. We will focus on this lecture on carrier drift, while diffusion and RG will be discussed in detail on the next lectures. Important concepts we have to understand related to drift are carrier scattering, drift velocity and mobility, drift current, and resistivity. Our objectives for this lecture are the following: understand the concept of carrier mobility and the factors affecting it, compute resistivity given the doping concentrations, and perform basic drift current calculations. There are three primary types of carrier action occurring inside a semiconductor: drift, diffusion, and carrier recombination generation. Carriers, being charged particles, are influenced by electric field. The movement of carriers due to the presence of electric field is what we refer to as carrier drift or simply drift. Carriers also exhibit some net movement when the carrier concentration is not constant throughout the material or concentration gradient is present. This movement due to concentration gradient is called diffusion, and specifically, carriers diffuse from higher concentration to lower concentration. Diffusion also happens in the presence of temperature gradient, and carriers effectively move from regions of higher temperature to regions of lower temperature. Lastly, carrier RG affects how the carrier concentrations change, and thus also influences the drift and diffusion within a semiconductor. Now, we'll focus on drift, which is carrier movement under the influence of an electric field. Let's review first some concepts. In an isolated electron in vacuum, under some electric field E, in this example to the right, experiences a force in the opposite direction of the electric field since the electron is negatively charged. The force it experiences is directly proportional to its charge and the electric field intensity. This force accelerates the electron with the relationship F is equal to ma, where we use m0 or the mass of an electron. In this case, we use the familiar value for the electron mass, which is 9.1 times 10 to the minus 31 kilograms. However, in a semiconductor, because of the interactions within the crystal, the acceleration that an electron achieves for the same electric field is different. The equation is simply adjusted, and an effective mass for the electron in semiconductor is used. Note that this effective mass is different from the effective mass for density of states, since the effective mass changes on what phenomenon is being modeled or observed. In this case, the drift of electrons. This slide shows the conductivity effective masses for free electrons and holes in silicon, germanium, and gallium arsenide crystal semiconductors. Note, however, that instead of specifying the actual value of the effective mass, the ratio to the electron rest mass is given instead. Note also how the ratio for holes is larger than the ratio for free electrons. This means that holes seem heavier or is harder to accelerate in a crystal. As shown in the equations, the absolute acceleration experienced by a carrier is inversely proportional to the effective mass. Thus, under the same electric field, holes will get accelerated less. Even without an electric field, mobile electrons and atoms in the silicon lattice are always in random thermal motion. This motion is influenced by what we call as carrier scattering mechanisms, which involve collisions with vibrating atoms in the crystal and deflections due to charged atoms or particles in the crystal. However, at thermal equilibrium, with the Fermi level constant throughout the material, the net or average movement of charge is zero. This also means that the net current in a semiconductor under thermal equilibrium is zero. There are different carrier scattering mechanisms in a semiconductor material. First is lattice or phonon scattering, where electrons collide with vibrating atoms in the crystal lattice and lose momentum, slowing down the motion of carriers. This scattering mechanism becomes stronger and more apparent as the temperature increases. This is because the vibration of atoms in a crystal is stronger at higher temperatures. The second one is impurity ion scattering or dopant ion scattering, where carriers get deflected near ionized dopants or ionized impurity atoms because of the local electric field these ions produce. However, the deflection or scattering caused by these ions decreases with temperature. This is because at higher temperatures, the carriers are fast enough and simply zip through impurities and their trajectory is unaffected. Obviously, dopant ion scattering also increases with doping concentration. As more dopants are there, the more likely and often that they are encountered by carriers. We also have carrier-to-carrier scattering, wherein carriers collide and get deflected by another carrier. However, this is significant only at very high carrier concentrations, where the chances of a carrier meeting another carrier is considerable. In the presence of an electric field, mobile charged carriers are accelerated by electrostatic force. Thus, the random but net zero movement of carriers at thermal equilibrium is disturbed. The acceleration due to the electric field is superimposed on the random electron motion, resulting in a non-zero net movement. As negative charges, electrons drift in the opposite direction to the applied electric field. This movement of charge produces a current, which we will refer to as drift current. Now, given that the electric field is constant and applied for a long time, does this mean that the electron in our semiconductor will just accelerate and accelerate until it reaches an infinite velocity? The answer is no. Due to scattering, a carrier's velocity cannot increase indefinitely as it will get deflected or collide along the way. It will accelerate, slow down, start accelerating again, slow down, start accelerating, and so on. Thus, instead, we model the carriers to have a constant average velocity, which we will call drift velocity and denote as Vd. At low electric fields, the drift velocity is proportional to the applied electric field, and the ratio of proportionality is called the carrier mobility or mu. Although, as shown in the plot, there will be a point where at higher electric fields, a phenomenon called velocity saturation occurs. This is comparable to how skydivers in free fall eventually reach a maximum speed due to air resistance, even when supposedly being continuously accelerated by gravity. However, for EEE 41, we will only consider low electric fields by default. Mobility is related to the effective mass of the carrier and the average time between collision events, tau m. Thus, the mobility is also a function of how often or probable a scattering event is to occur as the carrier moves. Tau m is also called the mean free time because it is the mean or average amount of time that the carrier is accelerated or that the carrier is accelerating freely without slowing down. Since v is equal to mu e, then mu has dimensions of v over e. We will use v in centimeters per second by default and e in volts per centimeter. Thus, the units for mobility, or mu, must be cm squared per volt second. Approximate electron and hole mobilities in selected intrinsic semiconductors at room temperature is shown. Emphasis is given on intrinsic and room temperature as scattering mechanisms depend on both doping concentration and temperature. Specifically, lattice scattering is dependent on temperature, while impurity ion scattering is dependent on both temperature and doping concentration. This plot shows us how the doping concentration affects the carrier mobilities for silicon at room temperature. Note that the electrons and holes have different mobility values. Specifically, holes in general have smaller mobility values than electrons. The decrease in mobility with doping concentration is also captured in this plot. However, note that the x-axis is labeled as the total impurity concentration, which means that we should add Na and Nd. Even though Na and Nd may try to cancel out each other in terms of the additional electrons or holes introduced to the system, their effect does not cancel out in terms of scattering. Both positively ionized donor dopants and negatively ionized acceptor dopants deflect a carrier in its path. Aside from plots, we will also use tables of mobility values when doing computations. However, note that mobility values change with temperature and material. This table shown is for silicon at room temperature. You may also use these values in a quiz or problem set where no mobility value is given, as long as it is for silicon at room temperature. Note again that the column indicates total doping, so you need to add Na and Nd when both are present in a material. Here is another picture of mobility. If we focus on the line for 10 to the 14, which is a relatively low doping concentration, it is obvious that the mobility decreases with temperature. This is due to lattice scattering. Since the doping concentration is low, ion scattering is still negligible. However, if we increase the doping concentration from 10 to the 14, the mobility always decreases regardless of temperature. This is because aside from lattice scattering, dopant ion scattering also occurs. Recall that ion scattering decreases with temperature. Thus, note that at high doping concentrations, where ion scattering is dominant, the mobility increases with temperature or as the temperature increases. However, at higher temperatures, lattice scattering starts to become dominant and the mobility starts decreasing with temperature. Now that we know how an electric field causes carriers to accelerate and reach an average drift velocity, and how the drift velocity achieved is related to mobility, which in turn is affected by scattering mechanisms, we now proceed to quantifying the amount of current caused by the drift action. Consider the semiconductor slab shown with positively charged carriers throughout the material. What is then the resulting current I if we apply an electric field that causes the charges to drift at a speed of Vd? Recall that current is the amount of charges passing through a cross-section A every some time t. Now the question is, how many carriers will be able to cross the area A after some time t? We can actually focus on the smaller section shown with length Vd times t. If carriers drift at a speed of Vd, centimeters per second, after t seconds, the carriers must have traveled a distance Vd times t distance. Thus, those beyond the boxed portion will not be able to cross the area A after t seconds. Since we already know that these charges on the box will be able to cross A, we can then just count the amount of charge inside the box, which is Qp times the volume of the box, which is A times Vdt. Note that P is hole concentration and multiplying by the volume gives us the number of holes in the volume. Each hole then contributes a charge Q, so we need to multiply by Q. Since current is the amount of charge per time, we simply divide by T, so the T factor is removed and we are left with Q times P times Vd times A. Thus, if we take the current density per unit area or the surface current density in area A, we get J is equal to the current over area, or J is simply Q times P times Vd. The current density is different for holes and electrons. Our previous example was for positive charges or holes. Note that electrons are negatively charged, so we use minus Q instead. Next, we replace the term Vd in terms of mobility and electric field intensity. Note that electrons drift in the opposite direction as the electric field, so Vd is negative μn times E. Thus, we can rewrite the equations simply as Jn drift is equal to Q times N times μn times E, and Jp drift is equal to Q times P times μp times E. Note how the two negatives for the case of electrons cancelled out in the end. This also tells us that for a given positive electric field to the right, electrons going to the left and holes going to the right both contribute a positive current. If we consider the drift current as a whole, since the drift of electrons produces a separate current from the drift of holes, we can combine the two equations, since in a material, the carriers will experience the same electric field. Thus, we can write the drift current as Q mu n times n plus Q mu p times p all over times E, or J drift is equal to simply sigma times E, where sigma is the conductivity of the semiconductor. Conductivity is equal to Q mu n times n plus Q mu p times p with a units of Siemens per centimeter or per ohm per centimeter, given that we use cm squared per volt second for mobility and per cm cube for carrier concentrations. Resistivity is simply the reciprocal of conductivity, so ρ is equal to 1 over Q mu n plus Q mu pp. The units for resistivity is ohm centimeters. A sample plot of resistivity for silicon is given, showing how resistivity decreases with doping concentration. This plot is not a perfect line. in a log-log plot since it also considers the change in mobility with doping concentration. The formula for resistivity can be simplified if we assume that the electrons are much greater than the holes. Thus, for an N-type, even with minor differences in electron and hole mobilities, if the electron concentration is significantly larger, then the formula simplifies to ρ is equal to 1 over q mu n times n. For p-type materials where the hole concentration is significantly larger than electrons, ρ is approximately 1 over q mu p times p. Thus, if we have a homogeneously doped or uniformly doped semiconductor with known dimensions, we can predict the drift current that flows when applied with some voltage. The ratio of the voltage and current can then be said to be the resistance of the semiconductor. Since the electric field is the voltage per unit length, we simply multiply E by the length to get the voltage. The current density is sigma times E, and we multiply it by the cross-sectional area A to get the current I. The E's will cancel and will be left with the resistance as ρL over A, now in ohms, assuming that the right dimensions or units are used. If ρ is in ohm centimeter, then it is best to use L in centimeters and A in cm squared. Note, however, that by substituting V by E times L is only applicable when the voltage drop is evenly distributed across the length. If we cut up the semiconductor into smaller pieces of equal lengths and treat them as resistors in series, since the dimensions are the same and the resistivity is independent of dimension, since the material is homogeneously doped or uniformly doped, then the resistances will just be equal and the voltage will be evenly distributed. Thus, this method should only be done if the resistance of the material does not change in space. In summary, we discussed that electrons and holes can be considered as quasi-classical particles with effective mass m star. In the presence of an electric field, carriers move with an average drift velocity Vd is equal to mu e. Specifically for holes, Vdp is equal to mu pe, but for electrons, Vdn is equal to negative mu ne, where mu is the mobility of the carrier. Carrier mobility varies with doping. Mobility decreases with increasing total concentration of ionized dopants because of ion scattering. Carrier mobility also varies with temperature. It decreases with increasing temperature if lattice scattering is dominant, but mobility increases with increasing temperature if impurity or ion scattering is dominant. The conductivity of semiconductors is dependent on the carrier concentrations and mobility. The conductivity, sigma, is equal to Q n mu n plus Q p mu p.